Grace Njoroge. Good morning, Grace.
Good morning.
Welcome to Fixing the Nation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
You have a lot that you're going to teach us.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about technology in agriculture. But we'll get to understand a lot more about what you do and what you're talking about this morning. But first, Janet will give you the day's quote.
Yes, it's by none other than Wangari Maathai, the OG amplifier of climate justice.
The shorty
Shorty for the trees.
Shorty for trees, yep.
But she said when she was accepting her Nobel Peace Prize, in the course of history, there comes a time when humanity is called to shift to a new level of consciousness. Does that resonate with you?
That truly resonates. And even as we are getting into this conversation, because in this conversation around farming, around smallholder farmers, around where we are as a population, not only Kenya, but globally, where we need to produce more food, we need to do so more ethically, we need to grapple with the effects of climate change. We cannot be doing business as usual. We need to change our conscious, the decisions we've been making in the past. We need to change the way we've been approaching certain things so that we are able then to, provide more sustainably, to put more income in the pockets of the smallholder farmers, to equip them to also, move out of the poverty and go up the wealth ladder. But then also as consumers, so we're also able to access better food. And not only for us, we're also thinking about our children and their children that will come after them. So
I like how you've tied it to what it is that you stand for. Agri-Fintech.
Yeah.
What is that? How did you come into doing Agri-Fintech?
Yeah, so Agri-Fintech is a fancy word, but just breaking it down a little bit, it is just the intersection of agriculture, technology, and financial services. And so basically my journey encompasses a little bit of everything. So when I finished school, I thought I'd be this big finance person wearing power suits and, talking, Forex and stuff. But then my first job was in microfinance. It was just selling loans of 50,000 shillings, 10,000 shillings. We even had people taking 5,000 shillings. And that was a bank processing a loan of 5,000 shillings. And I remember my colleagues who were in corporate and SME, they're like, what exactly are you doing with this large paperwork and for a loan of 5,000, 10,000?
Yeah.
But then after the cycle ends and the person repays that loan, and they take several loans after that, I got to see the transformative power of financial services. And not only financial services, it's not just financial services, it's other services. But at that point as a microfinance banker, I was like, hey, I'm sold. If I can do this and, do my little part in terms of either educating the smallholder farmer on the ground, reaching out to women, educating them, because education is also a big thing in terms of them understanding what's there for them and getting them then to take up the products, guiding them along the way. If you have a loan repayment, don't ignore it because it will impact your credit record, pay on time, etc. So that's how I then got into the field. Fast forward, I also did a bit of consulting for financial institutions. So now moving from that point to again working consulting for an organization that was helping financial institutions to design products for the market. So moving from the demand side, where I then worked with farmers and low-income people, to then understanding the organizations that are crafting these solutions and designing them, what goes in their minds as they're looking at, we need to design a product for this market. So after that, then I got into the digital space, looking at the power of digital. Yes, we have all these challenges, and they've been historical challenges around the challenges that farmers face.
Yeah.
How can we leverage the power of technology, and especially in Kenya, East Africa, Africa as a whole, where mobile telephony has really unlocked a lot of these hurdles that traditionally been faced. So that's where there's now the intersection of agriculture, financial services, and digital.
I like that. All right, Silicon Savannah. But that Silicon Savannah only seems to exist in Nairobi. In your big regional hubs, the Silicon Savannah-ness doesn't seem to translate to agriculture as quickly. And we say Kenyans are quick to take up technology. We're like sponges, we suck it up. Why not with agriculture?
Yeah, that is a really, really good question. And that is, one of the gaps that as Agri-Fin, Masiko Agri-Fin, we seek to come and bridge. So just a bit of an introduction into Masiko Agri-Fin. So Masiko is a global humanitarian and development organization. We've operated in over 35 countries. We've been more active in the humanitarian space, so responding to crises, responding to challenges where people need support and urgent support. But then we also have development programs, which is what the program Agri-Fin is under. So development programs seek to make market systems work better and look at working not only from a one perspective, but looking at how do we work with different ecosystem players to address one challenge. So the challenge we set out to address as Agri-Fin is how do we impact smallholder farmers? How do we work with them to improve their productivity? So looking at them, and there are a lot of studies around, the productivity that smallholder farmers currently have in the region, and how it can be much better, even twofold, threefold, tenfold, depending on the value chain. So looking at how do we then improve that, how do we improve their incomes, and then also in light of the climate effects and challenges, how do we then improve their resilience as well? So digital then was one of the tools that we say, hey, let's see what we can do with it. And the challenge, as you've rightly put it, is that digital products, and a lot of solutions that work in the urban areas do not necessarily work in the rural areas. There are a number of reasons that contribute to this. So one could be infrastructure challenges. So when you go to a village in Turkana, for example, and Turkana has one of the lowest financial inclusion rates, for example, in Kenya, from the last FinAccess studies that was conducted last year in 2024. When you go to a village in Turkana, number one, they do not have access to, they are off-grid, they do not have access to the grid. So even if you put a phone in the hand of a smallholder farmer or pastoralist in that area, they will only be charging it once a month.
Wow.
Or when they get access to, when they are going to the center, exactly, that's where they charge their devices from. So there are infrastructure challenges. The second thing is there are also products that are not designed with the rural people in mind. A lot of solutions, and I'm glad that this is changing, but historically a lot of solutions were what we called boardroom solutions. So, a company sits down and they're like, hey, we're seeing the statistics, the rural market is this percentage, how can we tap into this market? But because they do not really understand the market, they sit and design a product in the boardroom. So what we advocate and what we do with all these companies and solutions we support is we say you cannot design a product without going down to the ground and understanding the lived experience of this population. So we are really big on human-centered design, and human-centered design, what it simply means is getting down, understanding where this target population is. So, for example, you're designing a financial product for a rural person. Go and understand what is the need that they have, because a product is not simply a product. So, for example, if you have a phone or a watch or whatever it is, you just did not go to a shop and pick the first available one you had. It's hard to speak to the need that you have. So that's the same thing for low-income populations and for farmers as well. Go down to their level, understand what exactly is a pain point they need, because they have options as well. So we sit here and we assume, they do not have options, but they have a lot of options. When you come to financial services, they have Shylocks, they have Chamas, they borrow from themselves, they have assets that they sell off. So they're not short of options that they have.
You spoke of the infrastructure challenge, and I was thinking, okay, that example makes sense if I'm thinking, there's places that are truly off-grid in Kenya, but I think of where a majority of smallholder farmers are in Kenya, and it's fairly well-connected areas. They have, they may not even have power in the house, but the shopping center isn't that far, things like that. So I'm perhaps thinking, is it maybe just us who don't think that people are capable,
I think, because I was listening to you and I said, you've given us that classic example of, let's go to the farthest, the remotest, the one who doesn't have access. But what percentage of the population is that? It's a smaller percentage of the population. If we have 50 million people who have are subscribers to one mobile network in this country, 50 million subscribers, it means that there are very many across the country who are subscribers and they use regularly. If you have so many people who transact on mobile money on a daily basis, many of them are in the farmer communities. So why is there such a low uptake of digital services in the agricultural space? So the issue of access to technology, I don't buy it. If you come back to this side and say it's the products that are not available, then I'd say, okay, so why are the products not available? Because like Mariam is saying, we are a digital savannah. People are just sitting down every day and thinking of a new idea. And many people in the tech space have actually grown into tech space thinking solution-oriented ideas. What is the issue? What am I solving for? So let me come up with a solution. Already, that's the thinking of many tech developers. That's how they're trained. That's how you shall make money. You shall sell it because you're showing me how it's a solution and to whom. So are you saying that our tech guys have not been able to come up with a product that can attract a sizable number of people in the agricultural sector?
No, and those are very valid points, actually, because even according to the CAK records, mobile phone penetration in Kenya is 131%, meaning, as you're saying, at
Who
least
are the other 31%?
those who have
People
more
like
than
that.
two, more than 2 phones.
Yeah.
So it's a fair point. The access is there. However, there's still areas where access and infrastructure is a challenge.
True.
But I think the main problem is the relevance of the products, which is what I was speaking to, in terms of products designed without really understanding the need. And then also products designed looking at smallholder farmers as a homogeneous group. As opposed.
What would those products be like? Just give us an example. Because as you think about Agri-Fintech products, what would they be? This agriculture and financial services using technology.
Can I add something? Can I add something to Eric's question?
Yeah, sure.
And speak to a project or initiative or product that you've worked on and seen? Did it work? Why not? What did you learn? Maybe just so that it's a lot more granular. So,
sure. Yeah, so the way we work as Agri-Fin is we work with the solution providers, let me borrow your term, solution providers, and these are anything from banks to mobile money operators, telcos, to agtechs, to fintechs, who are providing any kind of service across the value chain of a smallholder farmer. So when you think about a smallholder farmer and the services they need, they can be grouped into 3 main services. So one is access to information. And this is something that we've discovered over the 10 years that we've been in existence, that more than 10 years we've been working with smallholder farmers, is that information, we assume that farmers have it, but they do not have it. And then also the information that is available, we assume that farmers can access it, but it is not easily accessible. So one of the areas that we intervene in is access to information services. One example that I can provide around that is we have a platform called Sprout, SPROUT. And what we've done there is we've aggregated content from different areas, mostly from agricultural institutions, universities, research institutions in different countries. And we have comprehensive information on 42 value chains around any information from planting, what do you need to do to, if you're thinking of planting a certain thing, inputs, harvesting, all the way to market. So access to information is one of the areas we support. The other one is access to financial services, and it is all these solutions are digital solutions, again, because we really leverage on the power of digital. So access to digital financial services. And here it is working with, let me give an example of a bank that we've worked with, Equity Bank in Uganda. And the problem that Equity Bank wanted to help or try and solve was they have a lot of farmers coming to the bank, but then farmers are really what we call, they have no banking history, or they have very thin file histories. So when they come to the bank and a farmer wants a loan, it's very difficult to assess them. The credit assessment needs, you have to have a 6-month statement in terms of your inflow of money and outflow from the bank. But a farmer does not have this. So the thing they then decided to do is look at how do we then partner with organizations that are working with these farmers directly on the ground, so the agtechs, because these agtechs already have so much data. They offtake from farmers, they interface with farmers more regularly, and then how do we then use that information and create an alternative credit score for farmers?
I
And
quite
then-
like that.
Yeah, and then in that way, then have access to farmers. That is not the traditional way, but include them.
So that's what.
for
So it's
financial
so that's an example. What's worked and what are some of the challenges
Yeah.
around it? If you,
Yeah, sure. From that
Yes.
specific example. Yeah, so that example was an interesting one because, this is a big bank that we were working with, and then they were working with smaller organizations. So the first, problem we faced was how do we share data? How do we enable data sharing between these organizations? The bank is regulated, very heavily regulated by the regulator. Fintechs, the two fintechs are working with two, fintech and an agtech, have all sorts of data. They collect a lot of data. So how then do they share this with the bank, and how does the bank accept this in a way that does not compromise the data?
Right. And all of them within
sovereignty,
the data protection
yes, the data
Act
protection
and laws.
Act.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And then also internally then, how does the bank use that data to inform a credit score that will pass the credit committee? So those were the two main,
I was going to ask actually, sorry to interrupt, but yeah, that thing of credit history for people who may not be traditionally banked or things like that, and farmers specifically in this case, it's always like something like that's at the back of my mind when these conversations happen. I'm thinking practically, if I'm a farmer listening right now who doesn't have a credit history with any bank, doesn't have access to that many financial services, but needs it, how do I start building a credit history?
So the first thing, and again, we go back to the phone, is there are a number of services that are available. So the thing that with the alternative credit scoring, some of the parameters they look at are how long have you been farming, what kind of inputs have you been using, how much has been your sales revenue from the sales of your produce, what other alternative income do you have? Because again, farmers are not just homogeneous in terms of farming, they have small shops. Some of them are teachers, they work in the communities they are in.
Right.
So what other income can you have that can be recorded, and you have like a record that then, when you go to the bank, you're able to show them, this is my record, this is what I've been doing. And then also, M-Pesa, the mobile telephony records. M-Pesa is a really big one. And we've seen a lot of banks accepting the M-Pesa records, which then helps a lot in terms of evaluating a person's credit eligibility and appraisal.
Okay, I can see where the bank would come in and say, let's partner with these organizations that can give us the data, that then we can find a way of making this data valuable and useful to us in terms of assessing the credit risks of this particular individual. Now, these institutions, these other organizations, you've called them the agtech and the fintech. What are those? And what are they doing in the farm?
So those are, you talked about the tech guys.
Yes.
So those are the tech guys who have decided to solve the agricultural problem. And they come in different areas. They don't necessarily have to solve all the problems. They come in, identify a challenge, and they design around it and have a solution. So we've worked with several. Let me give an example of one we are working very closely with in Kenya called Ketha. So what Ketha is doing is they are digitizing value chains. So they're working with a select number of value chains. So I'll give an example of tea because they're in the tea sector. And what they're doing is, and also in the dairy sector as well. So what they're doing is they're working with cooperatives. Again, remember, cooperatives have a challenge around, data, who is breeding their produce, how do we put that in a spreadsheet, how do we even evaluate that when, these people, cooperative members come to us for services. So what Ketha is doing is they're digitizing this. So they are digitizing whenever a farmer comes to the cooperative and brings their produce, it is weighed, they're given a digital receipt, it is recorded, the cooperative has a proper record of how much has been delivered, how much is due for payment. They're also going ahead because the other challenge they realized is that for cooperatives, they also take a bit of time before they make the payment to the farmers. And in this time, the farmer still has their needs in terms of cash needs, whether it is the farm, whether it is the household consumption needs. So they're also providing an advance payment to this. As long as the produce has been recorded, they definitely know that the payment is assured, and the payment is also flowing through their channel. So they are then also providing an advance payment to these farmers to smooth their consumption before the payment comes in.
On the basis of they can see what the farmer has brought to the cooperative.
Yeah.
So there's an
And the
offtake
value.
here.
Yes.
And the value of what the farmer has produced.
Yeah.
And it's okay. So then how do they take that data to the bank then? It's basically just showing that this farmer actually produces 3 gallons of milk every day and supplies this particular cooperative. And this is the kind of money that they've been making over the last, say, 3 seasons. Yeah?
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. So at the back end...
What's the value to the farmer?
Oh, wow. Value to the farmer is huge. Just looking at those examples, number one, remember this farmer has traditionally been invisible. They've been operating in their own little silo in the ecosystem, going to the nearest agrovet, getting advice from the agrovet, or even within themselves. They don't even know what kind of seed they need to purchase. They don't even know, they've not even done a soil test, because we're also working with organizations that provide soil testing support services, so that a farmer knows exactly what kind of seed is required for them and what kind of other inputs like fertilizer is also required. So bringing these services also means that the farmer is able to plant better. They're getting better productivity from their farms. Access to finance also provides them then with that liquidity when they need to buy inputs. And then again, remember for farmers, there's a big disconnect between when they get their income and all the expenses that flow into them. And so a lot of them get a lot cash challenge because they sell probably, especially for Kenya with the traditional crops, there are only 2 seasons. So immediately the season is over, you will get your income at that point, but then you have to wait until the next season you've planted, you've harvested, you've sold to get your... So there's a lot of, income smoothing that needs to go on at that point. So a lot of these solutions are coming to then provide those services. And then also there's the access to markets. So again, for smallholder farmers to get out of this trap that they're in, the 3 need to work hand in hand. So access to information, access to credit,
access to market.
Not credit, but financial services, including savings, including insurance, which is a very big component, especially insurance.
Let's take a quick break. Don't lose your trail of thought. I was also going to ask whether policies have kept up or not with Agri-Fintech. I feel like they've not. Policies and regulations.
I want to go bigger.
You want to go bigger?
Like,
okay.
I think tech, we can use it for more than... I don't know. I want to hear like AI is...
Wow. Don't lose that trail of thought.
Yeah, let me hold on.
Yeah, that's a good one. She's like, I want to go big. Let's go macro. Fair point. Grace Njoroge, Agri-Fintech specialist, is with us in studio talking about the use of technology in agriculture. We'll come back and continue the conversation in just a moment. Hopefully. So we went into a break. I know you said you want to think bigger, but I don't know whether Eric was satisfied with the information around the closing the gap or meeting the need.
Yeah, I think Grace, you've explained it very well in how those 3 come together, right? Somebody who's providing a solution just by giving me a nice information platform that whenever I've supplied my milk, there's information and I'll be able to tell how many liters just by looking at this without having to look at the book. Because people have been using, you'll have a booklet. On this day, it's written there 3 liters. The other day, it's written 4 liters. The other day, it's written this and the other. And if there's any loan that has been extended in advance in terms of inputs, they'll have written there, we gave you feeds on particular day worth this much. So this is just digitizing that information. And because of digitizing, we can then now use it, to get financial services. You can get a bank, you can get insurance, you can get such and such. It just sounds so good. So why isn't it the norm across the country? I mean, what's this gap? If there are such solution providers and we have so many farmers, let's just use dairy because it's almost across the country.
Right.
We have so many dairy farmers. Why aren't the dairy farmers all on these platforms and all getting access to financial services from banks, insurance services, and so on and so forth?
So the gap there is 2 things. So literacy, so just around a farmer understanding what it can do, what such a solution can do for them. And then also awareness of the product. So this is where some of the support we give is in terms of supporting these organizations to reach to the ground, educate the potential customers, not only on the service, but then also on, other related aspects to do with using such a product or service. So awareness, And then also scaling. Again, a lot of these organizations, they start small, especially for the agtechs and the fintechs. They don't have the big financial muscle of the bigger organizations. So they do have a very good product, but then they will implement it piecemeal as they raise funding or as their revenue allows them to.
Yeah.
So just related to that, we actually do have a platform as well. We are working across the entire ecosystem of the agricultural sector. We have a platform called AgBiz that is helping to give this information on players that are in the agricultural sector, digital agricultural sector, that need to raise funds. The support we give to these organizations is technical assistance, so it's not really mass catalytic support to unlock one or two challenges that you may be facing. But then they require much more support in terms of scaling, reaching out to, as you're saying, there's a bigger population of farmers that are not aware such products exist. So AgBiz is a platform that is providing access to innovators to come, list themselves, what they're doing, the service they're providing, how many farmers they're reaching. And then on the other side, the investors can then be able to access this information and say, hey, we're interested in this company. This looks good. This talks to our ethos. Let's see how we can support them. So scaling is an issue, but then we are also working different ways in terms of trying to see how we can bridge the gap for innovators to scale their solutions.
And building trust, I think.
Yeah.
Because again, if it's something that seems new, even though it's not, I feel like a lot of programs here, scalability also comes with building trust in tandem. You know, making them understand, okay, this technology also makes sense for you. It's everything you've been doing, but we're just trying to harness it and make it more.
Here's where I see the people who are creating the platforms, they're doing a good job. And I understand, well, you've just created this platform, then you won't have the muscle to go and market it and then also at the same time try and manage the platform. But then there are people who are dealing with these farmers on a daily basis. So you have circles. These farmers belong to circles. They do. And they borrow money from these circles, or they belong to these cooperatives that they take their produce to. Or these farmers also, in terms of like even agrovets, there are large agrovets or networks of agrovets that they take the produce from. Is it not possible to link or to create an awareness or to show the sense to a circle that you're a circle in a rural area? Most of your customers, your members are actually farmers, and they're farmers in the tea zone. They're farmers, so they have tea, they have cows. There's milk, there's tea. There's waru, there's minji at some point, right? All these things are things that you can use to offer better services. I'm just still trying to figure out why those do not come together. It's a three-legged stool.
Sustainability, investment, maybe
the
that's
SACCO
value.
has all that.
It does.
See, that the SACCO has
Yeah.
it because the SACCO has the database of its members.
Yeah.
And these members are in the same database as the fintech. They have the money. The
They
SACCO
have the
has
savings,
the money. The SACCO is holding the savings. The SACCO can bring in the insurance provider and jointly offer insurance services.
I get what you mean. Can I?
Tufanye nini?
Nini, just a little bit, because I don't know. When I hear Agri-Fintech, I had a question, which is like, does the fin in that Agri-Fintech have to be credit? Because, again, I was thinking before the break, AI, how to use it. Is it for climate resilient seeds? Is it for figuring out, I don't know, season predictability, things like that? I was thinking even just physical tech that enables farmers to be able to be trained to do value addition, things like that. So I'm moving from this because I'm thinking that does Agri-Fintech have to be like financial solutions for farmers? Is there something beyond that?
Diverse.
Yeah,
There's the agri side, which has those things that you've talked about, right? That's the support to the farmer to do their agriculture, whether it's predicting the climate, whether it's looking at information from Kenya Met and breaking down, telling, by the way, Met wamesema here it's going to start training next month, so start preparation now.
Right.
Or you're facing this kind of challenges in your farm and you ask it and it tells you the solutions could be this, this and the other, which you can confirm with the local Grigasha officer on the ground.
Yeah.
So that's the agri bits, Grace.
Yeah,
I get
absolutely,
it, right?
yes.
And then the fin is where now you're offering financial services, which I think the question you're asking is, does it have to be credit?
Does it have to be
Yeah.
credit? That's
What else can it be?
Yeah, so it is not only credit, and credit is only one piece. I think it's a piece we focus on most, but all the other products are equally important. So when you think about savings, there are farmers who prefer to save small bits, bit by bit, but they might have the platform, and probably in Kenya, savings platforms is not a big problem because we have the M-Pesas, the M-Shwaris, all these bank savings platforms. But in other countries, savings is a big product for farmers to to be able to get a platform to save. The other big one is insurance, and we've seen in insurance again the penetration, the insurance penetration, we know is still very low in our geography. I think right now it's at less than 3% still, and this is the entire universe of insurance products that are there. So thinking about even smallholder farmers, the penetration is even lower. But then this is again where such products need to be really designed with the farmer in mind right from the beginning until even when you're offering the product. But we've seen really interesting products, and we've supported products through companies like Pula, like Acre Africa, who have designed agricultural insurance products for farmers. And then also bundling this, because again, the other thing we've seen is and it also speaks to the point you were raising, Eric, around there are so many other players in the ecosystem. So one approach we've seen really working well for smallholder farmers is bundling solutions and offering them one solution, as opposed to a farmer is in the farm and then kidogo they're just planting a bit, someone is coming to know, I'm selling a product.
I'm selling insurance.
Yeah, I'm selling insurance.
The next one, I'm selling
10 minutes
seeds.
later, someone else is coming. So what we've seen, and then again for, they have time poverty, especially when you think about women farmers. So we've seen the bundling products where providers come together. It can be bundled, a credit product, an insurance product, a savings product, input seeds as well into that. We've seen those approaches working really well, because then you offer this solution as one to a farmer. So you don't have to explain, 5-6 different products.
Right.
It's just one product, it has these different benefits, and this is the cost for it. And then at the back end, then this is your different cuts for the different services that have been offered there.
I want to zero in on the insurance a little bit.
Yeah.
What do farmers insure themselves against? Smallholder farmers, what's like the uptake there, so that we can figure out the opportunities. I like the idea of bundling them, but what do farmers essentially insure themselves against, and do smallholder farmers typically take insurance?
Yeah, so the risks they take the insurance against are mostly floods and drought, mostly drought floods. But then you find that we have products that are bundled, that bundle not only the agricultural component, but then going beyond this to think, okay, this farmer might have a medical emergency. And so if it's an insurance product, why don't we offer it as an agricultural insurance, bundle medical insurance into it? And some of them are even bundling last expense into
I quite like me and my cows are covered. We're all under one insurance cover.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Animal and health cover. This is where microinsurance comes in, right?
Yes, that's microinsurance.
And I think those are the products that they could be developing.
Absolutely.
Like what you've just mentioned.
Yes.
I'd asked earlier, I don't know if you were still asking about the AI and some of the other, or your
tech.
No, itakuja too. There's still something.
Yeah.
I don't know, something very outward looking that I'm trying to grasp at.
Okay.
As far as agriculture, tech, and money, where they intersect, I feel like there's something much bigger.
There's a big opportunity at play.
It's not there yet, but it's brewing. It'll come.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about regulations and policies, because I think in a lot of these sectors you find the government is playing catch up. So I'm curious as to whether there are any regulations or policies that you feel are working, and if not, what would your recommendations be? I think in terms of, and especially when it's when we think about Kenya, in different geographies, it could be different because we work across 4 other countries as well.
In Kenya, the regulation is quite easy in terms of regulation. So you find that products can be developed. Of course, now the CBK, especially when it comes to a financial product, before it's rolled out, it needs to be approved. It needs to go through the approval process, just because of the some of the cases we've seen in the past of unscrupulous products and unscrupulous organizations coming into the space. But and then there's also the sandboxes where the regulators, give like an approval for products to be developed within certain parameters to test them out. So as the products are being developed, the regulator is also learning. So I think Kenya is very progressive when it comes to tech regulation because they don't curtail the tech just because they do not understand it. They allow it to be developed, they allow it to be piloted, to be rolled out, and then understand how to regulate it. So policy regulation is not really an impediment. There are other areas where government could definitely do much better, and in our work with, because we work with different stakeholders as well, we work with government as well, we worked with Roof in Kenya, for example. We are, and it's very encouraging to see, whereas in the past, the allocation, the government spending for agriculture was really very low. We are seeing that this year, at least, it has been increased to around 77 billion shillings for the current fiscal year. So we're seeing government, coming up and, trying to, understand the sector, and also not only from a regulation standpoint, but also to see how to be innovative. There's also, for example, the National Irrigation Sector Investment Plan that was released this year by the State Department of Irrigation. That in that plan, they are looking at how to fund irrigation of, I think, was it 1 million additional land under irrigation in Kenya. And what we are seeing is that there's a lot of appetite by government, not just to work on it themselves, but to work with other players in the sector. So on this NISI plan, the National Irrigation Sector Investment Plan, the State Department of Irrigation, we are already working with them as Masiko, Kenya, to try and see how do we support each other in terms of implementing some of those plans that have been laid out and getting investment for them and rolling them out. So we are seeing the government being more proactive and also being more willing to partner both with private as well as philanthropic institutions to roll out some of these initiatives. So there's a lot of collaboration. More could be done, definitely. And that also then feeds into the policy question. But we are seeing already there's been a bit of good...
on that same note, again, just to ask on a policy recommendation, I'm wondering, because we've talked a lot about how to scale, how to ensure that the farmers, remember your pain point, Eric's pain point was, why isn't it reaching? If you were asked, Grace, a recommendation, because it's tying in different elements, all for the impact and scalability for the farmer. This is really about making sure that they are able to have some form of agency and scale. Is there a recommendation that you think is missing on the table that you would say, I think we need to consider this?
Policy recommendation. I'd probably say just increasing the government investments into the sector, because there's still a lot that needs to be done. And government's role, unfortunately, as much as we can support, there are things that still remain a role of government. So things like, expanding infrastructure in certain areas that have been cut off or are difficult to access. We've seen instances in the news where there's, the rains are heavy and people want to transport their produce to the market, and they're not able to do that because, the roads are impassable. We see, milk being poured, cabbages rotting in the fields, tomatoes rotting, etc. So just increasing government spend in areas that directly affect agriculture, that would then help support some of these other efforts that other stakeholders are doing. And I think also just working with other players more closely than they have been doing, I guess. And probably, and I think that's already happening in different areas in terms of collaboration, more collaboration between private sector, philanthropic organizations, and having set targets as opposed to, people pulling in different directions or investments in the same thing across different directions. So just more of a harmonization, and especially now in the current era that we are in, where, philanthropic funding is cutting down. innovation into the sector. So how then does government step in and come and fill in that gap that's definitely going to be left?
Organizations such as yours, it's a philanthropic organization, right? You are not in this for money. You are in this to support, to see that there is an actual benefit that ends up to the farmer and to the small enterprises that set up in the tech side of agriculture. So if you look back over the number of years that you've been in this space, would you say that you have actually moved the needle a little bit, or is it just report after report after report? Like, how do you account for your time?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I guess the philanthropic space, the donor space, we've been facing a lot of backlash around what have you guys been doing? But I guess the way programs like ours operate is because we work with private sector organizations. At the end of it, it must make sense for the organization to work with us. They must see the value, because again, we do not work with them we have a set period. So for example, our support runs from maybe 6 months to a year and a half, etc. So in that point, around that period of time, we have set activities, we have set outcomes that we want to measure. We even have numbers that we set out to achieve in terms of, how many farmers are reached, how many are women, what's the income that we're going to be moving from point A to B. And then also the main reason, one of the reasons for working with private sector organizations is that we want these solutions to be scalable and to be viable even past the support that we give. So again, as we were saying, for rural farmers, again, it's you don't want to introduce a product every other day. Yeah. So you want to introduce a product, and even when our support and other philanthropic organizations move out, we want the private sector organizations, to continue, whether it's a bank, whether it's a fintech, whether it's a telco, to continue offering this solution even in the absence of our support. So
it must make financial sense.
It must make financial sense for them to engage in the product. They just don't develop a solution just because there's funding for it.
So are there private sector institutions that started with the help of your program and stayed, and you can say today they've actually reached 1 million farmers and they're continuing to serve 1 million farmers?
Yes, I would say there are.
Numbers,
yes,
targets,
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm looking. Kenya has how many million farmers? About 20 plus million farmers, right?
Yeah.
So just give me 1 million farmers who've been served through a product.
So I'll give an example of DigiFarm, because we started working with DigiFarm. DigiFarm is Safaricom. We started working with them when they just were designing the product. So when DigiFarm was coming into existence, that's when we started working with them. Designed the platform for them. It changed the strategy quite a number of times. So DigiFarm is one example where the current work we were doing with them was looking at how to structure the potato value chain in Kenya. So working with them to provide access to information for potato farmers, access to finance, and also access to markets for potato farmers. So DigiFarm is a good example. We've worked with them over a number of years, just designing the product, seeing how it also fits in within the organization as well, until the current point where it's now like a fintech platform. They're offering these solutions to farmers. Another one is...
how many farmers?
DigiFarm right now has reached around 800,000.
Less than a million.
Yeah.
Remember my target.
Less than close to
There's a million.
Perspective.
Half glass, glass half full, glass half empty.
My target is
almost there.
If one of the most successful examples you're giving us has not reached 1 million farmers, it's raising a question for me. Like, so all this work that's happening, why it's not also scalable?
Wait, how long has it been around?
That's
Because maybe
fair.
it needs time. Maybe it's a semi-new kind of...
and that's the thing also as well. The products need time to move from innovation. So there's a whole cycle. Design a product,
how long do we give them?
pilot it, go back, tweak some certain aspects.
I get it, Grace. How long?
And then scale it.
How long?
So again, the agricultural and the thing with the
Ye of little faith.
How long? A year, 2 years, 3 years?
The agtech sector, we need to be a little bit more patient with it because of the systemic challenges that are there. So I know people tend to compare it very closely with fintech, and with fintech you can see that the growth has been very phenomenal. Yeah. But with AgTech, because of the systemic challenges that are there that need to be fixed, we cannot really expect the companies to design a product and fix the challenges. And also I was saying government has a role to play.
So how long?
So it's more of an ecosystem. I think if we are waiting to have a unicorn in AgTech in this sector, maybe let's give it 7 to 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many more years for Digifarm?
Good question. Right now they have, we've worked with them, and where they are currently, they are at a point where they can scale. They've done the piloting, they've done the innovation, they've tested. So right now it's a scale. So that is one to watch, and there are a couple of others that we are watching.
Let me make it simpler. How much longer to hit 1 million farmers?
For
Digifarm, for example.
Maybe give them a couple of years.
Okay. We'll end it at that for now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Eric is a dog with a bone. Love it.
Ye of little faith. You know, some things our industry
I have a
didn't
lot
get
of
here
faith.
overnight.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical about organizations that say we work for 6 to 12 months, and then we move and
I think that is the mistake. That needs to be
give them time.
It needs to be
reframed. You're not
reframed.
giving yourself
No,
time.
I think
I think those
donor-
were engagements, and then we can do multiple points of intervention with one organization. But one intervention, we like to do it quickly. Let's go to the market. Let's not take 10 years to figure out whether something is going to work or not. Let's quickly do 6, 12 months, go to the ground. If it's working, let's improve on it, as opposed to doing 3-4 years.
And
then
I
going
think
back
that's an undoing of a lot of donor partners. Some things need time because it's also behavioral change. So they'll be like, we need KPIs in 2 years. In 2 years, somebody is trying to figure out their place in this chain and business. But anyway, conversation for another day.
Impact is more of a long-term game.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Thank you. Grace Njoroge, Agri-Fintech Specialist, Use of Technology in Agriculture. In the next hour, lest we forget, today is International Day for Persons with Disabilities. We will talk to Kennedy Okongo to tell us a little bit more about his own journey and what more we can all do to stand with people living with disability. Coming up to 9 a.m.